Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here, recording this Monday evening, but you're viewing this on Tuesday, October 28th. We're talking about Jaguars' next opponent and their next game, and not really diving into the nitty-gritty, the matchups, all that stuff right now, but really just like, is this a must-win game for the Jaguars? Funny to say after Jags started 4-1. You're like, no way is their first game after the bye going to be a must win. But they dropped two games, lose to the Seahawks in a close one. They lost by 8. It felt worse than it was overall against the Seahawks, but then against the Rams, it was a complete implosion, a disaster class, a debacle, whatever you want to call it in London. The Rams just beat the Jaguars in pretty much every feasible way, and the Jaguars tried to beat themselves a good bit too in that game. So you have your bye week after that. You're 4-3. Right now, you're still seventh place in the AFC. So as we're talking right now, the Chiefs and the Commanders are playing. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. If the Chiefs win that game, they'll end up being the 7th seed, even though the Jaguars have the tiebreaker with them. The Chiefs will have played one more game than the Jags and have one more win than the Jags, because the Jaguars coming off their bye week, week 8 bye week 9 playing against the Las Vegas Raiders. Is this a must win? I think everybody knows the answer to that. We'll dive into it. Really appreciate y'all being here, though. Please drop a like and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this football game in the comment section below early on in the week here. The Jaguars are favored now by 3 points, I believe, on the road in Las Vegas against the Raiders. And so is this a must win? I think it is. I absolutely think it is. I think if you lose this game, you drop 3 straight. The bye week was a time to reset. The bye week was a time to recalibrate. I don't think that this Jaguars coaching staff is trying to completely reinvent the wheel. As they've said multiple times over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, they're not looking at this as something where everything's broken and they've just got to fix everything. They think there's a few things that can be tweaked, some personnel things. Obviously, they need to cut down on the penalties. That's been the Jaguars' #1 killer so far this year. Penalties have been atrocious. And there's a lot of other things that are not going perfectly with this football team right now, but penalties have been really bad. You look at primarily on the offensive side of the ball, pre-snap and holding penalties have led to the Jags just putting themselves in bad positions offensively, like getting themselves off schedule, putting themselves in positions where it's difficult to stay balanced, difficult to run the ball, makes it difficult to pass the ball. Opposing teams don't respect the fact that you can run in given situations. They just load up and pin their ears back and try to get as much pressure as they can on you as possible. And that's been very apparent the last 2 weeks against, again, the Seahawks and the Rams. You've got to win this game for confidence. You've got to win this game for the records as well, for the standings. And you've got to win this game because the games coming up aren't getting any easier. So when you talk about the confidence, I mean, again, losing 2 straight, that hurts. I mean, that's a major blow to your confidence. And looking at it from the outside in, if you had said the Jaguars were going to be 4-3 entering the bye week after facing the Texans, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Seahawks, the Panthers, and the Bengals, you would say, okay, well, that's a pretty good spot to be in. You probably only expected them on paper to win 2 or 3 of those games at best. Bengals, before Joe Burrow's injury, you would have picked the Bengals. After Joe Burrow's injury, it's like, okay, you got to take care of business. Jake Browning is now on the bench, and Joe Flacco is playing quarterback for the Bengals. But I really think, again, taking a step back, you would say 4-3 is great. That's true. How you got to 4-3 and where you are now, it doesn't feel quite as good as you would have hoped that it would feel being 4-3 after this bye week, because you've lost 2 straight. The second one was in completely embarrassing fashion. First one, even though you only lost 20-12, still pretty embarrassing to only put up 12 points in the NFL when you could have scored a lot more. So yeah, confidence-wise, you've got to get that confidence back in this team, and I think part of that is going to be potentially featuring Travis Hunter a lot more on the offensive side of the ball. You saw that down the stretch against the Rams. You need to see that more consistently. He's been on the field a lot offensively over the last 3 weeks, but they need to feature him early and often. Trevor Lawrence needs to play better early in the football game. They need to not shoot themselves in the foot early in the football game. Drops have to be better. I mean, there's so many different ways that they can build confidence, and they need to build confidence. Because even in their last win, which was against the Chiefs, an improbable win, they were down 14-0. The Chiefs were rolling. And the Jags made plays. They fought back. They scratched and clawed. They got the job done. They ultimately just had a miraculous finish to that football game. But even that game, you were down 14 points in that game. Each of the last 3 weeks, they've been down by at least 14 points in the ball game. That is not a recipe for success. So you've got to figure out a way to build confidence to play well early on in a football game. Now, you're also playing the Las Vegas Raiders. In my opinion, they're probably the worst team in football. Now, they beat the Patriots in week 1, which looks insane now, looking at these two teams and where they're at now. They kept pace with, obviously, the Chicago Bears in a very strange football game, and then they beat the Titans. But, outside of that, what have the Raiders done this year? Did they even beat the Titans? I can't remember. But the Raiders have been atrocious, and you look at the y'all can roast me in the comment section for forgetting who won that football game. But you look at what they did last week against the Chiefs, a team that the Jaguars did beat. As bad as the Jaguars looked against the Rams, what the Raiders did that afternoon against the Chiefs was pitiful. It was one of the worst football games ever. I mean, Gardner Minshew played the whole fourth quarter for the Chiefs. That's how bad it was. The Raiders were lifeless and listless in that football game. And now Titans dropping Tyler Lockett, Raiders picking him up. Is that going to make a huge difference? I don't know. Brock Bowers getting healthy, Jacoby Myers. They're expecting these guys to potentially be able to play in this football game coming up. Yeah, that makes a difference. Obviously, Brock Bowers is the type of tight end who can absolutely eviscerate the Jaguars. They've struggled with tight ends since I can remember. But that is a bad football team. And yeah, Geno Smith's a good quarterback. He's the type of quarterback who traditionally plays well against the Jaguars, quite frankly. But I think even with those factors, the Jaguars are just a much better team than the Raiders. I think they're a better coached team than the Raiders, even though, Pete Carroll, a lot of respect for him. Patrick Graham, a lot of respect for him on the defensive side of the ball as well. I don't see it with this football team, with the Raiders. The Jaguars have to win. They're going to be picked by most people to win this game, pretty much everyone, in my opinion. And I think they will win this game, but it is a must win. And then you look at the standings, you look at the upcoming schedule. The Jaguars do have a much easier strength of schedule over the back half of the season. However, the week after they play the Raiders in Las Vegas, they play the Texans in Houston. If you fall to the Raiders, you fall to 4-4. The Texans are going to be hosting you, obviously having a bad taste in their mouth after actually losing to the Jaguars for the first time in Jacksonville since 2017, and potentially an opportunity to jump you in the division standings and jump you in the conference standings. Now, nobody's catching up with the Colts anytime soon in the AFC South, maybe even in the entire AFC. They do have a tougher back half of their schedule as well. The Jaguars' schedule lightens up a lot after Houston, and then you host the Los Angeles Chargers. They're a tough football team, good quarterback, all the things. Not perfect, but tough, good quarterback, a lot of talent. If you lose to the Raiders and fall 3 in a row, you could potentially be on track to lose 5 straight games. Because again, at Houston is going to be very difficult. And then hosting the Chargers is going to be very difficult. Then you play Arizona. That game becomes really dicey if you've lost 5 straight. If you've lost even 3 out of 5, whatever it might be, 4 out of 5, you're in for a tough spot there. It does get easier, playing the Titans. The Cardinals aren't a good football team either, but it's in Arizona, so that makes it a little bit more of a toss-up. But yeah, Houston, Los Angeles, those are tough games. So you got to go beat the Raiders this week. Give yourself a little bit of a cushion. Then you have the Cardinals, you have the Titans twice, you obviously have the Colts twice, you have the Jets, you have the Broncos. It's not going to be easy. But the Jags, when I say it's not going to be easy, riding the ship and making the playoffs is not going to be easy. They do have a favorable rest of their schedule, but that starts with the Raiders. They've got to do it. They've got to beat the Raiders. Absolutely. In Las Vegas. Again, let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe, and y'all have a good one.